All right. Welcome back, everybody. It's Christian. I just got back from the gym. Later on in the same day, I'm back from the gym and I'm ready to go, which is awesome. Anyway, it's part 9 of the series. Can't believe it took this far, but here we are. Okay, we got about 1 or 2 videos left. I'm almost done. Okay, seriously, I'm almost done. I'm almost there. So, in part 9, we're going to look at the 7th and final red flag. All right? The 7th red flag is where an influencer has a history of lying or hypocrisy. Put another way, if the influencer has a history of lying to you, that's a red flag that hurts his or her credibility. Similarly, if the influencer has a history of blatant hypocrisy, that also hurts his or her credibility and drops his or her believability, for lack of a better term. All right? This 7th red flag applies to Paul, Eddie, and Mario. So all 3 of these guys have a history of lying and hypocrisy, and their history of lying and hypocrisy tanks their credibility by a lot. And you're going to want to take notes on this because I got sources for this and I have a lot to go through. So get ready. We're going to start with Paul. All right? Paul Saladino has a history of lying, first of all. More specifically, Paul one time made a video. And Paul, in the video, he goes to a children's hospital in Austin, Texas. Paul goes into the hospital cafeteria and he points out that the cafeteria sells chicken nuggets, french fries, cheesecake, and other foods that most people would consider unhealthy. Fair enough. So, in the video, Paul creates the impression that the hospital feeds its patients unhealthy food, and that's why the patients are sick. I should also point out these patients are children, all right? So Paul's giving the illusion that the children's hospital is keeping the children sick by feeding them bad food. The only problem was, like I said, the video was a lie. Lane Norton investigated this video. And Lane actually spoke with people who worked at the hospital. The people pointed out that there were, in fact, healthy food options in the cafeteria. All right? So, the hospital had healthy food in the cafeteria, but Paul purposefully ignored the healthy food, and he only showed the unhealthy food, thus creating the misleading impression that the hospital was only feeding its patients unhealthy food. So, he's already lying about what the cafeteria is selling, which is bad enough as it is. But, if you read the comments to that video, other people who work in the hospital industry pointed out that the hospital most likely does not feed its patients food from the cafeteria. The cafeteria is not for the patients, but rather the cafeteria is for visitors and staff. So all this unhealthy food that Paul complained about is not even being fed to the patients, most likely. Rather, the hospital is more likely creating food for each individual patient, and this food probably is not coming from the cafeteria. So, Paul, in the video, created the illusion that the hospital feeds its sick children unhealthy food, but that was not true. First of all, the cafeteria had healthy food that he purposefully left out of the video, and, like I said, the hospital probably does not feed its children food from the cafeteria. And by the way, healthy food is in the cafeteria, so even if the hospital did feed food from the cafeteria to the patients can pick healthy food. But Paul does not give that illusion. He just lies to you straight up. So, based on that video, Paul has a history of lying to his viewers. He definitely lied in this hospital video. So, if Paul is lying in this video, what else is he lying about? Food for thought. Not only that, but Paul also has a history of cherry-picking data that agrees with his bias while ignoring data that contradicts his opinions. So, Lane has another video where he refutes Paul. Paul, I am dead serious. He legit said this in a video. Paul seriously argues that pre-packaged baby food shrinks babies' testicles. I'm dead serious. Paul legitimately says that, which is, first of all, that's disturbing. It's not normal to think that, first of all. And second of all, Lane debunks him anyway, and Lane points out that he cherry picks data that agrees with his opinions. And by the way, it's not just Lane, for that matter. Earlier we talked about phytoalexins, and Gil Carholvo, the host of the channel Nutrition Made Simple, cited dozens of studies that showed that phytoalexins are safe to eat. Yet Paul blatantly ignores those studies when he talks about phytoalexins. Similarly, I've done research on phytoalexins. The research shows that phytoalexins are perfectly safe to eat. Despite this, Paul ignores these studies outright, and he says phytoalexins in vegetables are inherently unsafe to eat, despite the fact that the data overwhelmingly shows that phytoalexins in vegetables are safe to consume. So it's well documented that Paul blatantly cherry picks data that doesn't agree with him. And me, cherry picking data, I think, is a form of lying. So Paul has a thoroughly documented history of lying, which tanks his credibility a lot. Paul is a liar and a scumbag, and you shouldn't listen to him. Oh, and another thing. He's hypocritical on protein powder. Alright? In one of his videos, Paul says that protein powder is unsafe to consume. Despite this, he hypocritically sells a protein powder in a supplement store. Alright? So he says protein powder isn't safe to consume, but then he sells protein powder in his own store. So if it's not okay for people to buy and consume protein, why is it okay for him to sell an unsafe protein powder that you shouldn't be consuming? Hypocritical, don't you think? So given his blatant hypocrisy and lying, you shouldn't take anything that Paul says, assume that he's lying. Alright? He has no credibility as far as I'm concerned. Alright? So, that's Paul Saladino. He's a liar, he's a hypocrite, and you shouldn't listen to him. And now we're going to go over to Eddie Abbew really quick, because he also has a history of lying and hypocrisy, which I'll get into shortly. And give me a sec right here. Okay. Eddie also has a history of lying and hypocrisy. For example, sorry, give me a second really quick. For example, Eddie is hypocritical on protein powder, just like Paul. Eddie says that protein powder is unsafe to drink, is unsafe to consume. Despite this, Eddie sells a protein powder in his gym. Alright? So, Eddie says on one hand, protein powder is not safe to consume, but then he hypocritically sells a protein powder in his gym. Which, again, that's hypocritical of him to say that. Which is the same thing as Paul, like I discussed. Not only that, but Eddie also has a history of hypocrisy when it comes to depression. As we talked about earlier in the series, Eddie is of the opinion that you can fix your diet. Sorry, I misspoke. Eddie is of the opinion that you can fix your depression with diet alone. Alright? If you're depressed, just fix your diet, your depression goes away, according to Eddie. Well, this man has failed to fix his own depression with diet alone. Eddie, by his own admission, has had mental health problems since 2017, when he got off performance-enhancing drugs. Alright, so, Eddie has struggled with mental health issues since 2017. He has tried to fix his diet, he has tried to fix his mental health, rather, with diet, and catch this, it's 2024, he is still suffering from depression. All right? So Eddie says you can fix your depression with diet alone. He has tried to fix his depression with diet alone, and he has failed to do so for 7 years. All right? It's extremely hypocritical for him to say, fix your depression with diet alone, when he himself cannot fix his depression with diet alone. Now, I understand it looks bad that I'm criticizing him for having depression. I understand this sounds bad. It really does not give me pleasure to criticize him for this. It doesn't. I really do hope he gets the help that he needs. But all I'm saying is that it's hypocritical for him to tell his viewers to fix their depression with diet alone when he himself cannot fix his depression with diet alone. As the saying goes, doctor, heal yourself, and he definitely has not healed himself on that issue. Finally, Eddie also has a history of lying. In the video I talked about earlier, where Eddie claims that you can fix your depression with diet alone, Eddie claims that 90% of diseases are related to metabolism. All right? He claims that 90% of diseases are caused by diet. At least he strongly implies that. The only problem, I Googled this statistic, and it's a blatant lie. All right? There is no study out there that I found which claimed that 90% of diseases were caused by diet or metabolic conditions. That statistic does not exist. He made it up. Not only that, if you critically think about it for more than a few seconds, you'll find that it's not possible for 90% of diseases to be caused by diet. All right? Arthritis, for example, is caused by chronic wear and tear on the joints. Arthritis virtually never is caused by diet. Diet could maybe worsen arthritis if you've already got it, but diet won't directly cause arthritis. Like I said, arthritis is caused by wear and tear that occurs over time. Similarly, respiratory diseases are never caused by diet. Respiratory diseases include emphysema, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and other stuff like that. Those are caused by inhaling smoke, fumes, chemicals, stuff like that. Respiratory diseases are never caused by diet. Type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is from birth. It is not caused by diet. All right? Airborne diseases are virtually never caused by diet. All right? Measles, tuberculosis, influenza, smallpox, chickenpox, all of those are caused when you breathe in particles that have those diseases. All right? Airborne diseases like measles, tuberculosis, stuff like that, those are never caused by diet, ever. All right? Not to be gross or anything, but sexually transmitted diseases are not caused by diet. You probably knew this, but anyway, many forms, possibly most forms of cancer are not caused by diet. Lung cancer, bone cancer, kidney cancer, bladder cancer, generally speaking, are caused by lifestyle and not by diet. So, I can go on, but you get my point. Eddie goes around and says 90% of diseases are caused by diet, but that's a blatant bald-faced lie. So Eddie has a history of lying and hypocrisy. So much like Paul, this red flag applies to him too. All right, I'm going to end it here. For the next video, we're going to focus on Mario Rios. And but this red flag applies to Mario as well, and I'll get to him shortly. But for now, thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye. See you soon.